And so I'll tell you something. Um, I don't handle stress well. Any little thing can stress me out, and I make it a big deal than what it is. I feel like, and I really commend a lot of my colleagues because they are working, they are going through the same thing I'm going through. They have families, and it's just like they look fine and they're not stressing out. You know, they may be stressing out, but they're not taking it so deeply like I am. And I don't really have any response. I don't have kids. I don't have, families. I don't, it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, if they can do it, why can't I do it? So now I'm thinking like, wait, like I'm really sensitive to stress. I am really sensitive to hardship. And yeah, that's just how I've always been.
So let me ask you this. So I hear you saying that you're sensitive to stress, or your way of responding to the stress is very
It's
sensitive,
very
or
extreme.
it throws you into like haywire mode,
Yes.
if that would make sense.
Yes. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So when we talk about anxiety, and you being a counselor student, you're very familiar with anxiety and the triggers and the symptoms of anxiety and things like that. And part of the symptoms are, racing thoughts, uneasiness, being uncomfortable, being unsure of what's going to happen in the future or with a specific event or a specific situation. And when we take a deeper look at anxiety, typically we think of control or not having control. So when I hear you saying these things, that you're trying to finish your internship hours, you're trying to make sure you have all your assignments turned in, you're trying to maintain, your professionalism, not showing your clients that you're burnt out or you're tired and things like that. Um, would you say that your anxiety is being risen or spiked because of the lack of control of the situation?
Mm, that could.
And what I mean
It
by lack of
could.
control over the situation, of course you have control over getting your hours because you're doing your hours. You're the one doing the work. But I wonder if that anxiety is more rooted in how you respond to anxiety, if it's more rooted in because you don't have control over the situations at all times, does that cause it to feel worse or make you feel more overwhelmed?
Yeah, I'd say that. I'd say that. Yeah.
And so let's go back a little bit. So tell me about your childhood and your upbringing, and any things that caused you anxieties in your earliest childhood.
Mm, well, well, fun fact, my mom, well, I guess it's not a fun fact, but I guess fun to y'all, I guess. My mom has always been my principal since what, elementary to high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I left her in 10th grade because I was tired of it. But yeah, so pretty much like throughout grade school. So you can imagine that's pressure.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta be perfect.
Were you in private school?
Public.
Okay,
So
wow.
yeah, so you gotta be perfect.
So she moved up each school.
Yeah, which is interesting. So
Wow.
as she got promoted, she's like, "Oh, well, you coming to middle school with me." Got promoted to the high school. Well, you coming to high school with me. So yeah, that's how that happened.
So what was y'all's relationship like at home?
You know something? Oh wow. Woo, Ronnie. I mean, sorry.
Okay, it's
Mr.
fine.
Ronnie. Yeah, so it's funny. Um, I could tell that my mom was very stressed because I mean, just her role as a principal, um, was pretty much on the line. Like, if your school's not accredited, you're out. And that's kind of how the school system works with them. Um, and so I could see that stress, especially like when SOLs would come around and stuff like that. Um, High stress, and so at home it's just we weren't really, we didn't talk much. So that's kind of why my grandma came to move in with us so she can just make sure everything is all right with me, like making sure that I'm good and taking care of me while my mom would go to meetings, all that good stuff. Then plus my dad was overseas, so it really was just my grandma and my mom. But I would say that my grandmother raised me because my mom has either always been in school, getting her PhD, or excelling in her career. So she's just been more career focused and not so much into me. And she really didn't become into me until like maybe my 11th grade year, and then 2 years later I was in Texas. So it's just like we didn't really form a tight knit relationship
Mm-hmm.
until like my 11th grade year, and then I was gone. So in my eyes, it was just always here, be quiet, give you some stuff to shut up, leave me alone because I got work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's kind of how I seen it. So that was kind of our relationship. She was home, but she wasn't that interactive.
She was there, but she wasn't there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I heard you say your grandmother moved in. Mm-hmm. Was that your mom's mom or your so your mom's mom? Mm-hmm. Now was your grandmother college educated or anything? So was your mom the first generation college student? Okay. Yes. So and I'm pretty sure she's very proud of that, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very prideful and making those accomplishments. Yes. And you said she had her PhD? Mm-hmm. Okay, was she getting her PhD while you were growing up? She
graduated when I was like maybe 5 years old.
PhD?
Yeah.
Okay, mm-hmm. Cool. So clearly you had a role model in a sense where you have a woman in the house of high stature, of high education, mm-hmm. that kind of set the bar for you in a sense. Yeah. Is that would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Less pressure.
And that was what I was going to lead into next. So talk to me about that. Would you say it was more pressure put on by yourself, where you had this self pressure where like, oh, well, my mom has all these degrees, she's done this, she's done that, so I at least got to do that at the bare minimum? Or was it more her putting pressure on you to, strive to do what she did?
I think it was self pressure. Like, I think I'm supposed to do this. I think I gotta go to school. I think I gotta, get a master's. I think I gotta, get a PhD. And so I think it was that. I think I was putting all that pressure on myself. Like, I have to do the best. Like, I have to go above and beyond. I have to, reach the totem pole. I have to reach the highest of the highs. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it birthed from, because I'm like that now. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm not reaching the top, like, I feel like I'm a failure. Like, so that's probably why I put a lot of pressure on me, and why I'm easily stressed, especially when it comes to academics. Particularly when it comes to academics. Yeah. Like, something else is like, whatever, I don't care. But it's something about academics where I'm just, like, I have to be the best of the best, and nothing less. And so, yeah.
So would you say that part of, seeing your mom accomplish these things academically, I'm pretty sure she had her degrees displayed in the house somewhere, mm-hmm. where you could see it. Did she have like her own little office in the house?
She did.
She had her own little office, mm-hmm. and she spent pretty much a good amount of time in there, didn't she?
Oh, God, yeah.
So seeing these things, seeing your mom reach this stature, seeing your mom accomplish these things, and especially when it comes to academics, and I'm pretty sure she stressed. Do you have siblings?
I have an older brother.
You have an older brother? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm pretty sure she stressed these achieving high academics and high grades, on you and your brother.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Would you say that possibly maybe the anxiety kind of developed into having a perfectionist mindset, or developing, wanting to reach a level of perfection to satisfy your mom or satisfy yourself?
Maybe both. Well, maybe both.
Because I hear you saying that, in a sense, because your mom was so busy with running schools and being a principal, and that is a very challenging job, that is a very time-consuming job, especially, you're switching from elementary to middle to high school. I can imagine as she rose up, the demands rose up and the responsibilities rose up. So, looking at it from your perspective, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, looking from your perspective, it sounds like you saw this as a way of, oh, well, if I can also achieve high academics and high grades in this will kind of make my mom pay attention to me more, or give me more attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. You're absolutely right. I still feel that way, which is so crazy. With the whole master's, I still feel like it's not enough,
Well, it's understandable because, like I said, your mom has her PhD. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like the bar that you saw at an early age. Yeah. Oh, my mom is a doctor. She has a doctorate. So mm-hmm. at the bare minimum, in my eyes, the only way I can see myself being where she is I have to have a doctorate. Yeah. At the bare minimum, for her to even sit there and say, oh, well, my daughter has a doctorate too, or well, hey, you've done this as well. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about how that has been trying to sustain that level of excellence, sustain that level of reaching this ultimate goal with the idea of, well, maybe my mom might see me as an equal to her or give me the attention I didn't get growing up. Talk to me about that a little bit.
You're right, Mr. Ronnie. Like, it is about see me, I think I would garner your attention if I was doing X, Y, and Z. And I've even witnessed myself going above and beyond, even in undergrad, just like being a part of all these organizations, being a part of all these academic, academic organizations, stuff like that. Like just trying to add on to myself so that, so that she could see me. And just striving for, 4.0s and stuff like that, like all of that. It's just crazy. I think it's just all to please her. And even now, like, to be honest, and this is crazy, I don't even really want a PhD. Because the funny thing is, the only thing I want is a private agency, and I'm good. And guess what? You can have your private agency once you are licensed, as you know. Yep. You're good with that. All you need is a master's, LPC, you're good. Mm-hmm. You don't even need a PhD to get your private practice, all that stuff. So the thing is, I think the pressure is because, like you said, because my mom's a PhD, now I gotta get one. Mm-hmm. I don't even need one, to be honest. I could cut school right now, in right. December, mm-hmm. And that's done. But I think it is because my mom has a PhD, now I'm pressured to get it. And she hasn't really said that, mm-hmm. but once again, I guess I'm telling myself, sure, you gotta get a PhD. That's the only way you're gonna, prove yourself, or actually finally show that you are worthy, and finally show that, I'm just as smart as you, or I'm just as brilliant as you, Mm-hmm. So really, that's my only motivation for a PhD, because really in the field, you don't really need one,
Absolutely.
So that's really what it is. I think it's just, I'm not even doing the PhD for me, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's a very good way to acknowledge that. And so let's put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that. So I want you to hold on to that last thought where it's not for you, it's to reach a level of acceptance from your mother. Yeah. Correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's put a pin in that. Let's go back again. Let's go back to childhood, Sharice. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about you and your father's relationship. I heard you saying he was overseas. Was your father in the military?
Yes.
Okay, what branch?
Army.
Okay, awesome. How long has he been in the military?
Oh, Jesus. 31 years.
Really?
Yeah, he just retired 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah. What was his rank? What was his final ranking?
Colonel.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Went straight to military out of high school?
So, of course, he did his undergrad, and then he did his master's. He was supposed to go to law school, but, my mom and him, they got pregnant with my brother, and you can't go to law school with a baby, because they don't get paid. So it's I got to drop out of law school. And so then that's when he enlisted in the military. And then he just stayed there ever since.
That's what's up. So talk to me about that. How was you all's relationship with him being overseas and when he was home? How was that?
And the thing is, my dad has been gone up until my high school year, maybe the 9th grade year. Of course, every now and then he'll come home for the 8, maybe for a couple months, then gotta go. Mm-hmm. A month and gotta go. A few weeks and gotta go, But when he was here, it's like he's never left. So I've always had a close relationship with my dad. Because when I was born, he was stationed in Fort Lee. He was stationed here. Mm-hmm. So, he took care of me. So I think that's probably what it is. Because it came from birth. So that's probably why I still was attached to him. Mm-hmm. Because he was able to stay the first 2 years of my life, and he was always there with me. So that's probably where that attachment comes from, why he can leave and then come back and I still remember him and it's like he never left. But high school, 9th grade year, that's when he stationed back in Virginia. And the thing about that is we didn't move with him. We wanted to stay here. Well, my mom wanted to stay here.
I was going to ask you that. Did you all move when he moved?
My mom wanted to start her career here. They moved prior to me even being born. Because when my mom was pregnant with me, they were in Germany, and then he had to, his next mission, I call them missions, his next mission was to stay in Virginia. Then that's when they had me, and my mom was like, well, I just want to stay and get my career on the ground because I've been doing this with you. It's time for me now. So she chose to stay. We all chose to stay, and as he went around and traveled. But I would say like my 9th grade year, that's when he was stationed back in Fort Lee. And that's when we were able to kind of build a stronger relationship, I would say. We've always been tight. My dad's not the most emotional, expressive person. He's very, very quiet, very reserved. Yeah. That's how I can describe it.
Sounds like an army man.
Yeah, typical military guy. But, and the thing is, I think that's where I get my intellect from. Because it's like, we can have a whole, like, philosophical conversation, but that's really about it. It's nothing emotional coming from it or feelings, stuff like that, because that's just not who he is. But if I ever need some advice about like cars or something like that, or anything about politics, then he's the guy. So that's kind of how our relationship always been.
Interesting. So, and I heard you say, and I wanted to ask you this. So I heard you say that you had a stronger attachment, a stronger bond with your father, even though he was gone on these missions, as you say, for periods at a time, whether it was 6 months, 8 months, a year, 18 months, whatever the case may be. And when he came back, it was almost like he was never gone.
Yeah.
So, and on top of that, you also said he might not be the most overt emotional person. He's kind of more like reserved. Yeah. So my question is, what helped you develop that attachment to him? Was it because when he was there, he gave you undivided attention? Was it because maybe you were just tired of being around your mom all those times when he was gone? So it's like, oh, dad's here, so dad's gonna spend time with me because dad ain't got, he ain't got to, look at papers or do budgets or look at stuff for school. So talk to me a little bit about that. What helped cement that bond with you and your father?
Yeah, I'd say it was that whenever he comes, because he's coming home to rest and spend time with us before he goes back somewhere else. So he didn't have nothing but free time to be with me and give me undivided attention and take me places and all that cool stuff. And like I said, like it started from birth. Like he was there for the first 2 years. My mom was kind of, and she had me, so it's like she just had me and here you go.
You kept it moving.
Yeah, here's your baby. So I think just from birth, you already had that kind of connection. It's something about that, I guess developmentally. Yeah, I think that's probably it, because he did give me the undivided attention and took me places and spent time, played with me, all that stuff, while mom was, worried about her and doing her career.
Got you. So when dad was gone, when dad was on his missions and gone from the house and things like that, was your anxiety higher, or was maybe the cohesion in the house between you, your mom, your brother, and grandma not the best during those times when he was gone?
I would say I didn't get, you're right, my anxiety did get a little high when he was gone. Because I felt like, he did keep that family cohesion. He was like the seal for the family. And then when he left, everybody just going about their lives. And then grandma tried the best she could, I guess she gave you some emotional support too. But yeah, I would say that it had gotten way higher, like when he was gone versus him being here. I'd say that.
Okay, all right. So we're going to put a pin in that relationship too. We're going to go circle back to childhood, Sharice, one more time. So talk to me about the relationship you and your grandmother had, and tell me how old were you when grandma moved in with you all?
I was maybe 5 or 6. Yeah, about 5 or 6 she moved here from Texas, and grandma was older. That's probably why I'm an old soul now. But she was 68, so okay. I was pretty much raised by a 68-year-old woman. So it's funny because she never talked to me like a baby, like a goo got none of that. I was like one of her friends, you know. And now looking back, I think that she kind of used me because my grandpa died too, like not too long before she moved. So I think for her, I was just taking the place of my grandpa because he's always been there for her. So I think she latched onto me and depended excessively over me because she has somebody now that she could love and I guess have an attachment with. So she would always bring me places, and I was like her, like I said, her friend. I was in grown folks' business I was supposed to know, but yeah, I think I was that for her. I think she became dependent on me for that. So it's always been that kind of relationship. But I would say she's a great grandmother. I would say she's always been there for me, always done stuff for me. I can't say nothing bad about my grandma. She's just always been there. And I feel like if it wasn't for my grandma, I'd probably be in a worse shape than anything if it wasn't for her. Because I would have nobody. Like absolutely anybody. Yeah.
All right. So, last one. So, talk to me about you and your brother's relationship. And how much older is your brother than you?
We have a pretty significant age gap. We're 12 years apart.
Okay. So, and your mom and dad are his mom and dad too, correct? Okay, yeah. Got you. Okay. So, by the time you were even able to recognize what was going on in the world, he was almost out the door anyway.
He was 12, yeah. Like when I was born, he was 12. So yeah.
So talk to me about you all's relationship. And did he move out when he was 18 or? Okay.
Yeah.
So you really only got to spend from age 5 to
I was like
7.
Played the only child and then the baby. Like I had two
dual roles.
Yeah.
Okay. So. All right. So, and the reason I asked you about each individual relationship, because when we talk about anxiety, especially with somebody who has already achieved a lot of success like you have your undergraduate degree, you're getting ready to graduate with your master's, which is a big accomplishment, a big thing, as it should be, and it should be acknowledged as a big thing. What I'm hearing is, and one of the common themes I heard when you were talking about you and your mom was that your motivation to reach this high level of success, to reach these degrees, to be able to get these degrees and find a career path that's going to be suitable for you is because you were looking for the acceptance or at least the acknowledgement of your mother to say, hey, Sharice, I see you. I'm proud of you. Everything you've done, everything you accomplished, I'm proud of you. But what I'm hearing is that while you were dedicating your motivation to that, I wonder how much does Sharice thank Sharice, or how much does Sharice acknowledge and praise Sharice for the accomplishments she's done? And the reason I ask that is because, when we talk about motivation and anxiety and success and failure, all these things go hand in hand with each other. And, everybody wants to be successful. I would find it hard pressed, and I'm pretty sure you would have found it hard pressed to come across somebody who just doesn't want to succeed, no matter what it is, whether it's being a teacher, principal, counselor, lawyer, drug dealers. Everybody wants to be successful at whatever they choose to do. However, when we don't take a step back and acknowledge that success, acknowledge how far we've come, or acknowledge the sacrifices and the dedication we put towards something ourselves, oftentimes we'll go looking to have somebody else fill that void, or have somebody else validate what you already know on the inside. And the tricky thing about anxiety, and the tricky thing about being stressed out because of anxiety, is sometimes anxiety will rob us of our own self-validation. And the reason I asked about you and your father's relationship was because you said that your father gave you that attention, he gave you that validation when he was there. Yeah. However, he was also gone for long periods of time. So as you were talking, I was wondering, well, how much of that validation and attention while he was there lasted when he was gone? Because, and you can stop me if I'm wrong, I would assume that as soon as he left, that might have caused some anxiety, because now you're sitting there, not only the anxiety of him being gone, being deployed in a different country, a different state, but also that it's just me and my mom now, or it's me, my mom, and my grandma. And even though grandma was kind of like an extension of dad in the sense where she gave you that attention, she gave you that warmth, she gave you that reassurance, at the end of the day, you were still looking for that reassurance and that validation from mom. And while that, I always tell clients, as we're growing up, we need validation, we need reassurance, we need that safety, that comfort from our parents. You're a counseling student, you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and at the very bottom of those needs is safety and food. Then you got shelter and things like that. Then you got self-esteem and confidence, and you have I can't think of the fourth ring right now. It's going to come to me in a second. But at the very top is self-actualization and self-awareness. And that means that you are able to understand who you are as a person, who you are, what you need, and how to validate your own self and your own accomplishments. So with graduation being so close, and I also heard you say, we're going to talk about this in a second, how you don't even want to get a PhD. And I find that interesting because you're right. In this field, in the counseling field, you don't need a PhD necessarily. The only reason you would want to get a PhD is if you wanted to be a professor yourself, which so
like as for the practice, like that's it.
So
yeah.
My question to you is are you going to appreciate graduating with your master's?
For me, yes, because that's what I want. That's what I want. That's what would satisfy me. In my mind, but that's all I need. That's my goal, and if my goal stopped there, for me, that would be enough. After December 12th, I would be content.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, have you ever expressed these thoughts or shared these thoughts with your mom? No. Okay. So let me ask you this.
I don't want that backlash.
Backlash. Tell me more. What would the backlash be? So let's go down that rabbit hole. Let's say you had that conversation with your mom. So I'm gonna be your mom. Now, my girl voice will be. I will try to have a girl voice as much as possible, but I want you to in your thoughts, how would you have that conversation with your mom about not wanting to get your PhD and why?
Oh my gosh, do it now?
Yeah. This is what, so you're familiar with this. This is what we call role playing. Yeah. And you're in a controlled environment. So I'm gonna play your mother, the PhD graduate, the principal of the year, principal of the decade, principal of Sharice's life, and I want you to come to me and tell me how you feel about not getting your PhD and why.
Hi, Mom.
Hey, Sharice, how are you?
I'm good.
What's going on?
There's something I want to tell you.
You pregnant?
No.
Okay. Well, what's going on?
Okay, so, I don't know how you're gonna feel about this, but I don't think I want to get my PhD anymore.
Well, no, what now?
I don't think I want to get my PhD anymore. But listen up. So in my field, you really don't need a PhD, and all I want to do is just have my own private practice and get my LPC, and it just really stops there. And I feel like I can do anything I want with just that. The PhD really is for people that want to be professors, and of course I don't want to be a professor, so getting a PhD really wouldn't make much of a difference, if that makes sense. So I really feel like for myself, I would be okay and content with my life really after I graduate, and then after I get my PC, and that'll be it. I don't see the benefits of me going to school for my PhD. I don't see the benefits.
Yeah, Sharice, hold on, baby, hold on. What is this talk of not getting a PhD? Girl, I have told you since you were little. PhD, you want to be called Dr. Berry. Now, I understand. I hear you. You don't need a PhD for your field and things. But just think about how you would feel being called doctor. Me and you, mom and daughter, we could be a team of doctors. Now, let's stop right there.
Yeah.
So.
That's why. Oh, my God.
And now, is that something that she might say? Or is that how?
Yes, similar with a few cuss words. And a few cuss words and a few, who put that in your mind and all of that,
Okay.
Somebody told you that, and
So that's
you don't want to be, I don't know, just that's what I would hear.
That's a conversation that would be highly have your anxiety on 1,000.
Oh God.
Like,
I'll probably have to send a text message or I don't know.
Well,
write a letter or something. I don't know about verbally telling her Jesus.
Well, I will say this, and you tell me what you think about this. So, part of anxiety also, and I've said this earlier, part of anxiety robs us of confidence. Anxiety robs us of speaking our truth, because especially when you're dealing with interpersonal relationships such as you and your mom, that's a very close relationship. Having her acceptance, having her approval is crucial for you at this stage in your life. And that's why I asked you, well, where is Sharice's level of acceptance and approval in her own life? Because, everything you told me when you were explaining to me why you didn't want to get a PhD, why you don't need it, especially in the field that you're in, makes sense. And you spoke with confidence. You spoke convincingly. You convinced me. Well, you don't need a PhD. Now, granted, I'm also in the field. So, I understand that you don't need a PhD. You don't need to have a doctorate in order to be successful in this field. But what I'm also hearing is you're conflicted because you want to, at the end of the day, have your mom's approval. But you also want to live your life. You also want to move on with your life. It sounds like you're done with school. It sounds like you've done everything you needed to do. You've satisfied all the requirements so far in the field outside of being licensed, which I'm assuming that's what you want to do in order to have a private agency. And tidbit, you don't necessarily have to be licensed to have your own private agency. You just have to have a clinical director. So now, of course, if you want to be the clinical director and be the clinician, then of course, hey, it goes hand in hand. However, if you want to start that private agency now, while you were, being licensed, you don't necessarily have to. So that's just something to keep in mind. But that's also something you can use when you're having this conversation, if and when you decide to have this conversation with your mom. Because it sounds like this is a hurdle that Sharice has to jump over in order to be at more peace with Sharice.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So now how do we get there? How do we get to where Sharice has this sit-down conversation with her mom? Because we're not going to have it over the phone. We're not going to have text messages. We're not going to FaceTime or Skype or anything like that. You're a very accomplished person so far. You've accomplished a lot. And a master's degree is nothing to shake a finger at, especially in this field. Because this, and I can't think of the other degree, requires 60 credits. Now, I don't know what your mom's master's in, but if I had to guess, she probably didn't get 60 credits for her master's. So, so you've basically done 2 masters worth of work for her 1 master's. So, you've been in school longer because of the degree requirements and how much more you've had to accomplish. And it sounds like you're proud of it, but at the end of the day, somewhere subconsciously, Sharice is like, but is it enough for my mom? Is it enough? And that can be taxing. That can be draining of your own accomplishments, of your own satisfaction with your life. Because I hear where you're satisfied with what you've done so far. But you just want to know, will she still approve me, or will she still view me as somebody who's successful? Because let me ask you this. And I should have asked you this a little bit earlier, but so your parents, when they were coming up, especially your mom, for example, her being a first-generation college student, and I'm pretty sure in her mind she felt like she had to make a number of sacrifices in order to be able to provide for the family, even though Your dad also was educated, had his bachelor's and master's degree, had a very successful career in the military. However, your mom also wanted her own success, her own career achievements. And it sounds like she's gotten those things. And I'm pretty sure if you were to ask her, she'd probably say, I made a lot of sacrifices. I did a lot of things to make sure that Sharice and her brother didn't have to work as hard as I did or have to go through the things I had to go through growing up. Most parents, you know, who reached that level of success had that same kind of background or that motivation.
She loved throwing out in my face.
Reminding you of the sacrifice you made.
I'm like, okay.
Would you think now, being somebody who's in the counseling field, would you think that was to make you feel bad, or in her eyes was that her way of motivating you to do better?
In her way, she saw it as constructive, but it's just in the manner in which you say it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I understand you made those sacrifices for me. And another thing I need her to get that I'm not like you. You know what I'm saying? And so the thing is, she likes to kind of, I guess, criticize me about me being easily stressed. Girl, try having a baby, a husband in the military gets shot up, and I gotta go to school, and you stressed out about this, you ain't got no, stuff like that.
So almost kind of like dismissing your, or not validating your feelings.
Right. It's like, girl, like, you don't have nothing to stress about. Like, try having this in your life and talk about stress then. So that's how she's like, that's what she does a lot. So she loves bringing that up.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So that brings me back to what I was talking about with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah. If when you were expressing your needs and your emotions and how you were feeling at that time to your mom, and she wasn't necessarily validating it, she was more being dismissive or, trying to say, well, you don't need to be worried about this. There are bigger things to worry about. And while that could be true, while that very well could be true.
Everything I provide, and I'm sorry to cut you
off, you're fine.
But things are coming up, and it's just like, I provided this life for you. You shouldn't be stressed out. Like, you don't have nothing to stress about, and stuff like that. Like, but I still stress. Like, everybody can't handle stress or handle situations like you. We stress. The thing is, our stress levels are on different levels, which I'm saying. Like, something I'm stressed about, you're not gonna stress about it. You're probably like, whatever, it's in the wind for you. But I might stress about that. We have our own. We have different lives, different situations. And so she has a hard time understanding that. So yes, when I do express myself, it is very dismissive. It is very berating, and it's just like, dang, like, I can't stress just because I have a life that you provided, a stress-free life that you provided. I still can't stress. I think I can stress.
Absolutely. And I will share this with you. And this is something to keep in mind when you have your clients, because I heard you say, well, her stress and your stress are two different things. Stress is stress.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Exactly.
Stress is stress. Happy is happy. Anger is anger. And it's something I like to tell my clients because, did I have, certain things going on in childhood? Absolutely. Did I go through everything my clients went through? Absolutely not. However, what I tell my clients and what I will tell you is, and this is something to think about when you're ready to have this conversation with your mom, the stress is there. Yeah. Now, how it got there or how it happened is different for everybody. Yeah. However, we can talk about stress because stress affects your body the same way stress affects her body. It affects your heart, it affects your breathing, it affects your brain, it affects your blood, it affects the whole 9 yards. No different than how her stress affects her body. So with that being said, and we're actually coming up on, time for the session, and you've shared a lot with me, and I really appreciate that. So before we close out, and I'm going to leave you with some homework as well, because it sounds like you want to have this conversation with your mom. You want to tell your mom how you really feel because, like you said, graduation is coming up. And this should be an exciting time for you. This should be a time where you're celebrating. Now, granted, you still got some things to take care of. I know you said December 12th is graduation, so I can only imagine, I've been there before, how those last couple weeks of the semester are. They're always wild. They're always crazy. Completely understand that. But there should also be time for you to celebrate yourself and be proud of yourself because like I said, you've accomplished a lot of great things and you should take note of that. You should be proud of yourself. And what I'm hearing is that because you never got that consistent validation from your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and let's be real, from your dad too, because even though he might have validated you and gave you that attention and that reassurance while he was there for a good amount of your childhood, he was gone for gaps at a time.
Yeah.
And life was still going on for you while he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
No fault of his own. He chose a career path that unfortunately took him out of the house for periods at a time.
Yeah.
But at least he made an effort to give that reassurance and that validation while he was there. So that was good that you were at least exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're an adult, now that you're not a child anymore, you're still your parents' kid, but you're not a child anymore. You're on the same level playing field as them now. You're an adult, they're an adult. So, but we need to find a way to help Sharice reach that level of self-actualization and self-awareness on Maslow's hierarchy of needs that we talked about, so that when stress comes up or things come up, Sharice is able to not only combat those things, but also move through those and thrive through those things, and understand that you have accomplished a lot, and to be able to give yourself that reassurance and that validation. So if you don't receive it from your mother, your father, your grandmother, or anybody else, Sharice is able to give herself that validation and be okay with it. Because it's one thing to validate yourself. It's a whole other thing to validate yourself and be okay with it. So what I want you to do for our next session, because I want you to come back, because we talked about a lot of things, and in order to have this conversation with your mom, you're going to have to be able to project that conversation with confidence, with knowing that, Mom, this is exactly what I want to do. This is exactly why I'm doing it this way. I hope you accept me, and I hope you accept my choices. Because at the end of the day, like you said, it's your life. You're going to do with your life what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Not saying that you don't want to be successful, or you don't want to achieve great things. And you don't need a doctorate in this field in order to achieve great things. And so establishing those boundaries with your parents and opening that line of communication where you can communicate with them not only as their child, but as an adult, as a young woman in this world who is doing great things, and they should be able to highlight those great things no matter what you choose to do. Even if you scrap the whole counseling thing and start it all over with something else, the fact that you're wanting to do something to achieve your happiness and your peace should be enough for your mom and your parents to say, proud of my baby girl. So, but there's some things we have to do. So here's what I want you to do. Here's going to be your homework assignment. I want your homework assignment to be, I want you to write down 5 things that Sharice is proud of Sharice of. All right? I want you to take those 5 things, write those down. 5 things that Sharice is proud of Sharice of. All right? Then when you come back, we'll talk about those things. And then, so let me ask you this before we end the session. Would your mom be willing to come to a session eventually with you?
I think she would.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not saying right now or anything, because we want to make sure that you're prepared and you have you have your conversation ready, because you have it. You have it. Trust me. I hear it in you. You have what you want to say. We just need to tailor it to where when you speak with the same confidence as you spoke with me in. Because you convinced me. You convinced me that Sharice doesn't need to get a doctorate. Sharice don't need to be called Dr. Berry in order to be successful. And you don't. But we want to make sure that you have the abilities to express those same sentiments to your mom and to your family and be okay with it. And that you are able to navigate those conversations going forward after that and feel that your mom still loves you, your mom still validates you, and things like that. So what I'm going to have you do is have you speak with our office lady. We'll get you scheduled in. Would you like to come back next week or in 2 weeks? What works for you?
Yeah, I can come back on a Thursday.
Okay, cool.
Work for me
so
on the same time.
The next Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'll have you schedule the next appointment with my office lady.